how hackers move through networks and be undetected. Today we are going to do a blue team exercise given from BlueCapeSecurity.com. They have a free course labeled C2 Attack and Defend, and in this DIY do-it-yourself course you're going to build your own lab environment. So in this environment you will have a Windows client and presumably a domain controller, an attack machine which is our Kali, and either client or domain controller you will need a Velociraptor and Splunk instance to get Windows events and Sysmon events. I pre-installed everything and I'm gonna do a fast wrap up. So I have 3 machines. One of them is Windows 10 I do use for malware analysis, and I have some samples and tools. And I have another Windows machine that I use for Splunk server and Velociraptor server. And I have another machine called Kali, our attack box. And from this attack box, I'm gonna do an attack on Windows 10 malware analysis machine. And to do this attack, I'm gonna use a C2 framework called Powershell Empire. So in order to run this, you're gonna run sudo PowerShell Empire server on one tab, and in the second tab, you're gonna wanna write sudo PowerShell Empire client. So first run the server side and then client side application. And I'm gonna run the client application as well. From the client, we have 2 jobs. One of them is to create a listener, and we are gonna name a listener. We are gonna modify this listener. So use listener, I'm gonna choose HTTP, and then it lists all the attributes for this listener. And the most important thing is to change the host and the port number, and again the name. So I'm gonna change the name. In order to change something, you're gonna set it. So set name HTTP 5, and then set host. I'm gonna write this host's IP address, and it is here, 126.133. Set host HTTP. So this is the request that will be made from the client or the victim machine, okay? That's why this is very important. Okay, seems right. And then I'm gonna set a port for this. So set port 6666, and then I'm gonna execute this. So the listener is up and running, and I need a beacon. So I need a stager. Use stager, and I'm gonna start with Windows, and you can use C#exe, launcherbat, HTA, cmdexec, launcher VBS. So there are a lot of options to take, but I'm gonna start with the basic one, Windows launcherbat. So I'm gonna set a listener for this module, set listener HTTP5, and that's it. All I have to do is execute, and then PowerShell Empire client is going to create a beacon, a stager for me. Okay, it's listed under var library PowerShell Empire client generate stagers launcher bat. So since I don't have a phishing email to add this batch file right now, I'm gonna use a common way, which is to host the file, and then I'm gonna download the file from the Windows 10 malware analysis machine. So I'm gonna run a Python server, Python 3-m HTTP server on port 80 to download the file. So I'm gonna move on to the malware analysis machine. I'm gonna reset, and then launcherbat is there. So I already did this experiment. So the file is downloaded. So let's read what it contains. Let me edit this. You can see echo of start PowerShell.exe, no interaction, window hidden, no bypass, EP bypass, new object, net web client, proxy, credentials, and then we can see the HTTP 192.168.126.133 over the port of 6666, download PowerShell. So when you double click, when the user double clicks this batch file, it's going to go and download something called download PowerShell from that machine 126.133. Let's just run the batch file. Okay, I'm going to run the code on PowerShell with a elevated command. Somehow it is creating an error. So let's troubleshoot this via manual way. So this is basically the same command. Now I run it, and if I head over to the Kali machine now, I will see one agents. So I'm gonna press agents, type agents again. Now I can see an active agent, and you can see the internal IP address, username, process, PID number, delay, last seen, HTTP5. So I can interact with this agent via command interact, and then autocomplete. Now I can write info to get more about what is the system about. It is a Microsoft Windows 10 Pro machine. So I have one scenario. I'm going to use something use module to create a schedule task on the system. So you can write schedule, I guess, or persistence. It gives you some options: persistence, elevated VMI, registry, VMI updater. I'm going to use persistence, userland, schedule tasks. I'm going to press enter. Now it's going to list me some information. Hey, do you want to modify something? So I'm going to change task name into iHexi. Maybe set listener to HTTP5, and if I press execute, now it's going to create a schedule task under current version debug named iHexi, daily trigger at 9 a.m. So we are done with our attack side, so I can just exit and hibernate this machine. Let's move to Splunk and search for Win event, because all the events are coming under the index Win events, and let's search for the IP address. Assuming you are working in a SOC and you are working with a SIEM product like Splunk, and you get an alert like unusual network operation or unusual IP connection, right? So these searches or rules work by either threat intelligence or there's a block list, right? So this is like, think of this IP as an external IP, and you are searching for the connections. So I'm gonna search to see how many logs are coming and which hosts are they coming from. And on the left hand side we can see all of the logs are coming from one host, which is alert ETR. And on sysmon event ID event code 3 network connection, you can see PowerShell is making a connection with this destination IP 192.168.126.133. Network connect with event. Okay, so there is again more information on sysmon, but I'm gonna get other informations on Velociraptor. So as a level 1 analyst, your job is to monitor and report, right? So you understand that there's something going on and this is a real case. You're going to write your analysis and then escalate to the level 2. Level 2 is going to do instant response, right? So he is going to utilize Velociraptor here. Assuming that he or the level 1 also identified the scheduled task, I'm going to move to Velociraptor. And then Velociraptor is a digital forensics / instant response tool. If you have installed it, if you click the search, it's going to list you the clients. And if you click the client ID, it's going to list you the details about the clients. So here I have Microsoft Windows 10 machine. Velociraptor work with hunts. So this is the hunt symbol, and you can see the list of hunts that I created earlier. Persistence case. I created a hunt to list scheduled tasks. Okay, so let me do it again. New hunt and put a description on it. Persistence and start hunt immediately. The most important thing is to select the right artifact. So I'm gonna select Windows System Task Scheduler. So it is going to get me what is under C Windows System 32 tasks under that folder. So if I press launch, you can see the new hunt created, and it is going to take a couple of seconds to schedule this. Since our agent is connected to Velociraptor server, it's not going to take that much time. In the meantime, we are looking for a scheduled task, and in this scheduled task there should be an entry to a specific registry hive path, and in this hive path we will see a different entry. That's where the registry hunt will come, and we are going to download the registry artifacts from the computer, Windows 10 machine. Okay, the task is scheduled. It should be done any moment. And after that, when the task is done, you can go to Notebook, and from the first entry we were able to find some interesting values. So I created earlier C2 defend, and let's see if there are other entries on task scheduler. I think we created something like iHexy. Okay, this is the one. There is some interesting entries here too, but this is the one that we created, sort of. So this is the scheduled task name, iHexy. It is calling PowerShell with these arguments: non-interactive, window hidden, command ix, text encoding. So it's gonna run whatever it is, and from base64 string. So it is changing the encoding and getting something from this registry hive: HKCU, software, Microsoft Windows, current version debug. I can go and connect to the machine manually, or what can I do is I can use Velociraptor to get that registry information. So we can create another hunt for this registry, start on immediately, and while selecting artifacts we can use Cape. And with this one we are going to configure, because Cape is a massive tool, and by default it's going to select a lot of things. Okay, if I click basic selection collection, you can see all the data that it is going to collect. So I don't need all that information right now. I'm gonna use registry hives, launch it, and when the task is done, we are going to download the results and investigate via Registry Explorer from Eric Zimmerman. There is also different use cases or different artifacts you can search for. Like I searched for Windows Applications Chrome History earlier, and it is listing me where the user visited. So since I only visited the attacker URL, HTTP 192.168.126.133, this is the older listing, and we can also see some other entries: Go Microsoft and Microsoft Wedge, welcome, Microsoft.com, maybe Bing.com. So that's normal, but you can also get the browser history from Velociraptor via using Windows Applications Chrome History, or there is also a generic one called SQLite. So let me do it like description AAA, artifacts, SQLite. This one, generic forensic SQLite Hunter, it's going to find every SQLite database in Windows and it's going to list you. So since browsers are using this one, it's going to list all the browsers activity, and you can see Some of the browsers are already listed: Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and other things, macOS. So I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna work with the registry. So it is finished, so I can download via full download. It's gonna compress the file for me, and then I'll be able to unzip and use Registry Explorer to find the registry key and what's in it. Okay, it's ready. I'm gonna click. Okay, it's done. I'm gonna run the Registry Explorer again. Alert, uploads. Now we are like in Windows Explorer. You can see users, blind user, and I'm gonna work with NT user dat with Registry Explorer. Let's see. It is starting. It's gonna take some time given the resources. Okay, you can just drag and drop. This is going to create a error. Hey, primary and secondary sequence numbers do not match. That means there is some data that needs to be processed. This is actually the log1 and log2 files here, so I'm gonna press yes. Okay, I'm gonna select the transaction logs, these log files, under downloads, the newer one, alert, uploads, auto, C, users, blind user, and control, log1, log2, open. Registry Explorer is going to combine and process this data, and it's going to create a correct updated version of the NT user dat for me. And when it finishes, it is going to ask me, hey, where do you want to store it? Now it's going to ask me, hey, where do you want to store the clean one? So I'm gonna name it as clean3, and it will be listed. And do you want to load the updated hive? Absolutely. I don't want to load the dirty hive. And where I want to work it, so since the entry is in HKCU, Microsoft, Windows, I can just go there, like software, Microsoft, Windows, and in current version I shall see a odd entry. Like for this one, you can see this is looking like a base64 command name debug. Okay, this is the value that IHAC scheduled task was reading. So I'm gonna use Cyberchef to decode this. So when you decode it, there is some PowerShell commands. It is checking the PowerShell version, PS version table, major, greater or equal 3, and then creating some values, checking something. But the most important thing is this one is storing a value here, $SER equals $text encoding Unicode get string convert from base64 string, and there is something. So this will be our C2 command and control server. So if I copy and paste this, now our C2 server has been compromised. 192.168.126.133, port 6666. So let's recap what we have done. We used Powershell Empire to create a listener, and then we created a stager, and we downloaded the stager from a Windows victim VM. So the delivery can be any way. So attackers, they use different methods. They will have different methods because I'm not a red teamer or an experienced hacker. I'm just doing for educational purposes. So I downloaded the file somehow, and this is normal, right? Whenever attackers bypass a security control, that this is what happens. So your SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, or EDR tools didn't create any alert. It could be the case because not every security control is bulletproof. You can't rely on one security control at a time. That is why we are using defense in depth, right? We are installing, buying different products at different levels of network and endpoint. I managed to run the batch file, and then we got a connection from our attack box and we created a schedule task. And on Splunk, we created an alert, assuming there was an alert to a odd IP address or external IP address from an unusual port, which is 6666. And the SOC analyst who was investigating this, he looked at the IP address and he searched for the OSINT information and looked at how many different hosts are connecting to that IP, and she found this suspicious and escalated the situation into level 2. And the level 2 found out the schedule task, different schedule task on Velociraptor, and then used the registry hunt to get the suspicious registry entry under the debug, current version debug hive path. And on that hive path, we were able to gather the C2 server and port number. So thanks for watching. If you want to do this experiment, if you want to do this lab, you can visit BlueCapeSecurity.com. I highly recommend this website. And if you want to learn more about Windows forensics, you can also take his courses from BlueCapeSecurity.com. There is great content here. I also finished one of them on TCMSecurity.com. And Marcus Schobert, great guy, and he has great resources. And he's also doing live ransomware workshops, and you can maybe participate one in the following weeks. And thanks for watching again. I'll see you next time.